Hey guys, so yeah, I'm kind of filming this in a unique way. I'm a little tired and sweaty, and talking about this review, if you will, on the first part of the returning series called Melting May. That's M-E-I, not M-A, not M-A-Y. It's M-E-I. It's the name of the literal character. And DezzieArts, I should say, DezzieArts, formerly Jacqueline Dorr, aka Michelle at DeviantART, today officially continued the series she started last year. Now, a little bit of context for you guys that may not know exactly, what I'm talking about, and it's real simple. You see, Michelle decided to get into what is known at this time of year with this month for artists and writers of original content, if you will. She decided to get into what is known as the Melting May groove of things. And by getting into that groove, she decided to come up with her own story. And the story basically centered around a character called May. That's M-E-I, me, May, Mia, Melting Mia, I guess you could call her. M-E-I, Melting Mia, Melting May, whatever you want to call it, however you want to pronounce it. And Mia, May, if you will, ended up buying this lotion from her friend, her love interest, I guess you can call her, called, basically her friend's name is Zazarin. We'll just call her Z for right now, or Zaru. No, we'll just call her Z for right now. It's Zazarin or something. Anyway, Mia, if you will, buys this lotion from her friend because her friend has developed it, saying it's gonna, I guess, do wonders for the skin or something. I gotta go back and read the first part. And what happens instead is May. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. But like I said, May, if you will, after she applies the lotion, starts feeling strange, and she notices that instead of probably, clearing up her skin or making it feel smoother and silky or whatever, it's causing her to melt. Yeah, it's causing her to melt. And at first, she's a little worried. But throughout the first 4 parts of the series, especially the first 2 to 3 parts, mostly as we get, in the first 2 parts, I should say, by the 3rd part, she's fully embraced what's happening, kind of mastering and testing her abilities and stuff. And by the 4th part, not only has she really, I guess you could say, mastered her abilities as much as she could, but she also invites her friend who created this lotion to join in the fun. But anyway, like I said, in the first 2 parts, she's kind of adjusting to it because, she's kind of worried, she's kind of like unsure, until she figures out that what's happening to her, is not hurting her, it's not killing her, it's just allowing her to have a pleasure, if you will, a very, I guess you could say sensual pleasure that she couldn't get elsewhere or in any other kind of shape or form. So after, like I said, kind of experiencing this and learning about it more in the first and second parts, and really starting to, train herself and embrace herself more with her powers and really get into that sensual pleasure towards the end of part 3, and then in part 4 kind of show it off to her friend and everything, and then getting her friend into the act. Basically, part 4 ends with Mia May, if you will, absorbing her friend into her body. She basically she puts her mouth. She kind of melts into a puddle, but then she's mastered the abilities enough to where she can, form a tendril, if you will, with her mouth on it, and she uses that mouth on the tendril to suck her friend up, who in the 4th part that ended last year, put the lotion on her and started to feel the effects. And her friend and Mia May decides to suck her up into her body, reform into her human self, I guess to cause, less suspicion, and decides to go home with her. And that's where the fifth part, commences. And just like Mia May, Z, if you will, she's a little unsure of what's going on until she remembers exactly. Because what happens is she wakes up and, she's at first wondering, where am I? And then she starts recalling what happened and realizing, I'm just a living puddle of goo now, or a sentient living puddle of goo. And she tries to, kind of reconstitute herself, but she can't because, again, she's learning. And Mia May is there to help her out. She's there to help her out and everything, and kind of have a little fun too. And she helps her out in a couple of ways. She kind of at first says, okay, I'll help you form your mouth. And she does it in a way that's similar to how she was able to form hers. She kind of gives her a very pleasant, and I guess you could say erotic feeling, if you will, by doing something with her hand, stirring her up the puddle that her friend has become. And that causes her friend to materialize her mouth and then later on her eyes and all that. After that, she dumps her into a bassining, if you will, and I guess for like chocolate and all that, and she stirs her a little bit more. The way it was described, it almost sounds like the bassining she put her in. Mia May also went in with her. She kind of like soaked in her or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's through this that she helps Z, Mia, that is, reform a little bit more and everything, and finally, kind of reconstitute her human body. But it's here where Z, Mia's friend, is a little back and forth at first. Like, she likes what's going on. She's kind of starting to embrace it a little bit, but she's also kind of worried. She's got that question of what happens if she does melt, but she can't reform? What happens if she gets stuck that way? And Mia sees this. She could sense it, even with Z testing out the abilities by extending her fingers and all that. And even kind of in a way says, hey, if you don't want to continue this, that's fine. I shouldn't have pushed it on you. If you want to go back to normal and remain that way, it wears off within the next several hours, or at least it wears off by morning's rise, if you know what I mean. But surprisingly, her friend, Mia's friend, is like, maybe I don't want it to end. Maybe I want to keep it going. Because Mia even acknowledges, because her friend is starting to, like I said, kind of embrace it a little bit, going back and forth, but kind of mostly being positive about it. States that when she states basically that it's only for up to, it's a 24-hour effect, if you will, and it only lasts till the next day. Her friend says something along the lines of, that kind of, is like, kind of goes into her worrying a little bit, but not really, which again, Mia May can sense. And even it's like, hey, if you don't want to do this, I'm cool with that. I shouldn't have put it on, or I shouldn't have pushed it on you, which again, her friend is totally fine with, because her friend is, actually the opposite of, I guess Mia, or what Mia May was expecting. In other words, she's more positive. She's more like exuberant about it. Even her anxieties are becoming more ramped up, and not anxieties of worrying of, oh, what happens if I can't reform, or what happens here or there. No, anxieties of basically, what else can I do? What other things can I do with this ability? And again, it gets towards the end, and it gets to this point where, when she acknowledges that the limitation, basically the time limitation, that being Mia, to her friend, she does say something along the lines of she wished it was permanent. Now, that's something to keep a key eye on, her wishing and hoping it was permanent. But then, again, we fast forward towards the end, and like I said, Mia, noticing, the unsureness, kind of the waviness, if you will, of, accepting this and being unsure about, what could happen, otherwise and all that. But, which her friend, Mia's friend, love interest, Mia May's friend, and if you will, kind of shrugs off and says, it's the exact opposite, because then she tells her at the end, when Mia May tells her, hey, it ends at this time, Z's like, well, maybe I don't want it to end. Maybe I enjoy this. Maybe I've actually come to enjoy this. And then that's where she melts basically back into a puddle. Well, she just basically says, she actually likes doing this. And then she says that her head basically deliquidizes into the puddle that she's become, gurgling, as, DezzieArts describes. And Mia May even follows it up by saying, yes, it does feel good, doesn't it? And she allows her body to soften and melt as well. And the way it's described is both of them are completely melted now and slipping through the cracks of the hardwood floor. But what's interesting is the fluids of chocolate and caramel, or whatever they're described as, I gotta look back on it again, are starting to mingle. They're starting to mingle. In other words, they're starting to merge together a little bit. Now, basically, I can't say what happens next because that's how the story ends. That's how the story ends. That basically, Mia May's friend is starting to, embrace it, her anxieties, or allowing her to accept the positive possibilities of what could happen next. And then, of course, like I said, it ends with her melting back into a puddle, Mia May joining her, and them slipping through the cracks of the hardwood floor. I think of Mia's home, where basically the fluids are starting to mingle. Now, like I said, I can't say what happens next because we have to wait till next week. But it does, again, it does kind of hint at something possibly down the line. And one person that follows DezzieArts, Jacqueline or Michelle, if you will, on DeviantArt, who's enjoying this, even asked if there's going to be a fusion in the future for the two, or if there's a fusion planned out for the two later on. And all DezzieArts Michelle could reply with is, stay tuned, with a little wink emoji, or at least a DeviantArt version of a wink emoji, if you catch my drift. And that kind of tells me something right there too. And what that tells me is, yes, we are probably going to get a fusion. If you're already describing the melted fluids of both Mia and her friend mingling together through the cracks of the hardwood floor, in other words, merging together, kind of flowing into each other, that's pretty much a clue right there that we're going to get these two fusing, merging together into one person, or one slime girl, goo girl person, if you will. Now, the other thing that kind of hints at me, kind of gives me a hint of there's going to be more to this continuation over the next couple of weeks than what we got so far with the first part, or part 5 as Michelle calls it, is, Mia wanting or wishing for it to be permanent, because she basically, as Mia May describes it, it's one of the best feelings she's ever had in her entire life. And she can't imagine, not being without that feeling. So what that tells me right there is there's a possibility that Mia May's friend, Mia May, if you will, and her friend Z are probably going to work together throughout this story, maybe even next year's continuation. Who knows if there is a next continuation next year. But something tells me either this month or May 2023, we're going to have Z and Mia May, if you will, working on a version of the lotion that allows the person that applies it to themselves to become a permanent slime/goo girl that's able to do all kinds of crazy things like melt down, shapeshift, and all that. I mean, it's even described in the story that Mia May does this after she helps her friend reconstitute herself to kind of slowly teach her friend, what, she'll be able to do. And I think at the same time, what we're going to find out as well going forward is that Mia May is going to learn some new tricks of her own thanks to her friend, because her friend Because one thing that Michelle told me in a note, when I asked her, when can we see this, or could I see a sneak peek? And she said, no, there's no sneak peek, but I can say it's going to be more focused on Mia May's friend. What that kind of tells me is, even though her friend is going to learn a lot of new things from Mia May is also going to, learn some new tricks from her friend, because her friend, being on her own and having direct access to this stuff, because since she's the one that created it, is probably going to experiment in ways that I don't think Mia May would have planned on. So I expect, as we go into part 6 next week and part 7 the following week and part 8 at the end of the month, that Mia May's friend is going to do a lot more with these abilities than Mia May has. And like I said, what she's learning from Mia May, as far as like what she's able to do, she's going to teach her friend some things as well. And yes, I do expect a fusion, as I check my time here because my bus could be coming soon, I do expect a fusion to take place between the two real soon. In fact, I expect it to happen probably at the end of part 8, thus leaving us on a bit of a cliffhanger to go into the following year. And one person, she's known as SM Fantasy, who I used to Patreon, support on Patreon, if you will, and hopefully I can do that again. Even she loved what she read, saying it was a great start, a lovely start to this this year's take on Melting May. So if you have someone like SM Fantasy, who basically, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very much in the camp of being a fan, being a creator artistically, and sometimes literally, if you will, or literally. When you have someone like her, like I said, who is in the camp of, being a fan of goo girls, slime girls, girls that melt in puddles, shape-shifting elastic girls that have gooey powers and all that, or elastic slime girls, goo girls. When you have someone like her, who's been known to really participate in the Melting May theme every year for the month of May, coming out and saying that this is a lovely start to to this month's theme, if you will. And this is a girl that, like I said, artistically, supports this kind of stuff, especially during this time of year, as well as basically, literally, she does it as well. Not as much there, but, she goes both ways. But when she, who is prominently known for that in, DeviantART, if you will, in, Ink Bunny, Fur Infinite, Patreon, you name it. When she is known for that, and her coming out and saying, hey, this is a great start, that's saying something. That's really saying something, if you will. But we'll just have to see what's in store next. Again, I think a lot of the things that I mentioned are going to take place. I think Mia May is going to teach her friend a lot more of what they can do. Her friend's going to teach Mia May a few things she may not expect it, because she's going to have more direct access to the lotion. And I expect a fusion at the end as well. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple of scenes in future chapters over the next couple of weeks where they both decide to... Now, I'm not saying she wrote these in there. I'm not saying she wrote these in there, but I would not be surprised if we do, I would not be surprised if she did write these scenes in there, if we get, scenes to where both are kind of bathing in each other, or they're just one mixed bath together, just relaxing or something like that. We'll see what happens. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them, maybe Mia May's friend, decides to do a Wicked Rich impression and does the What a World Melting deal. Who knows? Not saying that we're going to see that or anything, but it's a possibility. But again, like I said, what I do expect to happen is, both are going to teach each other new tricks and stuff, as well as we are going to see a fusion. And yes, because, you know, she's known to do this at times in a very subtle way. But again, this all depends on DeviantArt, because apparently DeviantArt changes its mind every now and then, kind of like YouTube, no offense. I would not be surprised if we do get a sex scene or two, or maybe three, in these stories, with them literally going at it and really getting into each other and mixing in with each other, if you catch my drift. I would not be surprised by that. I would not. But yeah, I do expect that maybe to happen several times. We're probably going to get that at the beginning of the next story, because that was hinted at here at the end of part 5, the continuation. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get that maybe 2 or 3 times. Like I said, I won't be surprised that they start learning from each other some tricks that, you know, they wouldn't expect to learn from each other. And I do expect a fusion to close us out, to lead us into the next one. And I do expect them to find a way, maybe in these next couple of chapters or parts, if not next year, but probably hopefully here, because it's hinted at that they might make it permanent. But we'll see. And again, like I said, I do expect a fusion to end it. But I do recommend checking it out, guys. I do recommend checking out Melting May or Melting Mia, the series on DezzieArts DeviantArt page. I think you'll really get a kick out of it. And if you do follow her and you're wondering, are we going to get a Melting May edition or a special story of are we going to get, basically, what I'm trying to say is, let me rewind. Okay. If you're wondering if we're going to probably get a special story where, you know, essentially it's a one-off or one-shoot or kind of semi-connected story, Melting May themed story of Metamorphosized to Malleability. If you're hoping we're going to get something like that by DezzieArts along with this, then I would say yes. I would say that's definitely what's going to happen. Most likely it'll probably happen either the second to last week of this month, but I do expect her to do something like that for Metamorphosized to Malleability. But I do recommend, like I said, checking out the Melting May, Mia May series here on her DeviantArt page. I think you guys will really enjoy it. And that's all I'm going to say. One thing she has said that she loves about this is, you know, she has something to look forward to every year, because doing a different doing and continuing a series once a year, you know, is something to, you know, get excited about, because it gives you a whole year to draft up, you know, kind of write up, draft up, you know, the ideas you want to imply or insert, you want to include, I should say, into that story. So it also basically gives her time to work on her more primary series, like Metamorphosized to Malleability, you know, and everything, as well as, you know, as well as maybe collab with people down the line. But honestly, though, for a story series that she's planning to do once a year for a whole month, with a new part every week, I would definitely suggest checking out Melting Mia, May, or Melting May, whatever you want to call it, on her DeviantArt page. I think you guys will enjoy it. But that's all I'm going to say, guys. I'm going to go ahead to McDonald's right now, because I got a little bit of time on me. Let me check. Yeah, about 5:14, so I got about hopefully 12 minutes or 11 minutes or whatever. I'm going to get myself something to drink real quickly before my bus shows up to take me home. But I just wanted to come on here, guys, give you a bit of a review of the 5th part and the continuation of this yearly series that DezzieArts, formerly Jacqueline Dorr, aka Michelle on DeviantArt, is doing. Like I said, I do recommend you guys check it out. And until then, comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check me out at my Teespring store. Also, super chat and super stickers are welcomed in the live chat during this premiere. Also, check me out at DeviantArt.com/BVW1979. That's also where you can find DezzieArts and her stuff. Also, check me out at Patreon.com/BWRoses. Support me with a $1, $3 tier. Hold on for a second. Also, sorry about that. I just didn't want to get anybody wondering or asking questions. But anyway, like I said, check me out at patreon.com. So that's BW Rosas at the $1, $3 tier. Also, check me out at BW Rosas Discussion, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also, check me out at VENMO for content you can't get anywhere else except there because of copyright reasons, and that's at BW Rosas. Also, check me out at VENMO at Brian-Walmart-2 to support me there financially, and at Cash App at BW Rosas 98. But until next time, guys, I do suggest checking it out. And this is my review of the 5th part, the continuation that started last year of Melty Mia / May. And I'm out.